Hello, spirit folk. This is Brett, and I'm coming to you today on this episode of Van Spirit from the Stronghold Retreat Center in Oregon, Illinois. Oregon in Illinois. And I am visiting today with the Reverend Craig Schwalenberg, your game minister. So Craig and I, we went to seminary together. We're both ordained, but we both kind of launched these alternative outreaches. I'm doing the van life outreach, and you're doing a game outreach ministry. And
game ministry. It's very important. You have to say it. Game ministry.
Game ministry.
Your game ministry. A ministry of games.
So. And where did this come from? I know you've enjoyed games.
So I have been playing games since I was like 5. And I've been doing role-playing games since my early 20s. And then even when I went to seminary, I was the gamesmeister at seminary. I was the one that organized game nights and did the cooperative games and the not so cooperative games that we enjoyed playing.
I think we enjoyed those a little more.
We did. Yeah. We did. It's always one of my great joys and wonders that all of these people who were straining to be Unitarian Universalist ministers, peace, justice, pastoral care.
Right. We're the love people.
The love people. And the games that were most popular from my collection were Guillotine, which is about the French Revolution and cutting people's heads off, and Lunch Money.
Oh, that's right. I do remember Lunch Money.
Just pictures of a little girl taken by her father, but the whole game was about beating people up. It had these really ugly nursery rhymes on them. And it was all about kicking people in the head and taking their lunch money. It always tickled me that was the games that the ministers wanted to play.
Yeah, it seems like a little catharsis going on.
Yeah, a little bit, which gets into what I'm doing actually. Yeah. So a year ago, I stopped being a congregational minister and an interim minister. I've tried both, and decided to be a community minister, which is a long way of saying I don't actually have a job. I don't work for a church.
Yes.
I try to get jobs outside in the community, and the ministry I'm doing is one of combining spirituality with play and the healing and therapeutic power of games. During COVID, the first year of the pandemic, when we were all in lockdown and trying to figure out what to do with ourselves, I took classes on therapeutic game mastering.
Okay.
Which was designed primarily for therapists who wanted to incorporate role-playing games into their therapy session. I came in it from the other side, which is I have a background in psychology and trauma response. We both have volunteered on the UU Trauma Response Ministry team. And I am really experienced in role-playing games. And I wanted to learn more about how to use the role-playing games in a more therapeutic fashion. And they let me in. And I did it with 2 different companies, 2 different groups, 3 different classes. And then when I was trying to find out what to do, I know this is going to come as a great shock. My wife, Cheryl, the smart one, has been trying to tell me to do game ministry stuff for over 5 years. And I kept telling her,
you can make this into a full-time
thing. That's exactly what she said.
Take it on the road.
Right, you could do this. And I kept saying, nah, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how to write these things. No one's going to pay for that. I couldn't make any money at it, blah, 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 blah. Finally, last year, I listened to her. And so now that's what I do. I'm your game minister. And I do pulpit supply. I do workshops. I do trainings. I teach congregations how to safely do role-playing games. I run role-playing games professionally for all ages, online and in person. I also offer what I call pastoral RPGs, which is, I'm not a therapist, I'm a minister. So I can offer you some of those therapeutic benefits from the role-playing games. So if you don't necessarily want to see a therapist, but you want to get some benefits beyond just fun in your role-playing game, I can do that. I also do, the full gamut. The funniest thing I offer on my website is I will bless your dice.
Okay,
Oh,
nice.
my phone is ringing. Apologies.
Okay, hold on. While Craig goes and answers a call from his wife, I thought I'd say a little bit about the Stronghold Retreat Center. It's a beautiful place in Illinois. It was fall colors when we were there. It was called Stronghold because the Stronghold family built a castle in the middle of it. Mr. Stronghold apparently was a Chicago area newspaper editor of the 19th century, and he wanted to create a European-style estate in the middle of Illinois. Here we're going into what I would think was the downstairs access, the upstairs, downstairs, where the staff might enter into the castle. It is a 4-story circular staircase all the way up into the battlements, I guess you might call them. There's a complete English manor kitchen and knights. This room was a little strange, kind of an altar thing in the middle of a round room. Not sure what ever took place there. This had to have been one of my favorite rooms, the Rumpelstiltskin room, built for the children. Quite frankly, had I been 5 or 6 years old, these pictures probably would have given me nightmares. But probably closer to the original fairy tale as well. And what castle isn't complete with a beautiful library, elaborately painted ceiling, moving down into a fireplace? Oh, but what I'm talking about is a secret bookcase door. What castle isn't complete with one of these? And there is our friend, Reverend Craig, your game minister, as he likes to be called. And so you go down this hallway, this long, thin little corridor into a chapel, of all things. Not sure what took place in here. It looks a little bit strange to me.
I'm currently doing an episode of Van Life interview with Brett.
Oh, hey, Brett.
Hey.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's
I
okay.
can talk to you later.
Okay,
So you
the
bless
the
dice.
silliest thing I offer on my website is I offer a dice blessing. And I thought that was the oddest thing because I don't know if you're a role player, if your dice keep rolling bad,
Yes.
they sell dice jails, they sell dice dunce caps, they sell, well, I would be happy to bless your dice or an exorcism if that's what's required, And I thought that was just a funny thing I was doing, but I've met other game ministers in other denominations, and they do the same thing. So it's not me being
Come out of
right. I have not thought of something new here. It's not unique. But yeah, that's most of what I do. I run role-playing games for kids, special needs kids specifically. I have a lot of neurospicy folks, people on the autism spectrum, dyslexia, and I know how to run the game and give them the materials for the game that help accommodate that.
So what is it about what mechanism, what is it about playing a game that, I don't want to use the term therapeutic, but that is healing, that is integrative, that is spiritual? What's spiritual about
so there's two things to this. We'll start with games in general. One of the other classes I took from a expert in game theory, his nickname is Pigeon, but I don't remember his full name right now. He does actually work with gaming companies. He does work with the military. He's a gaming expert. But one of the things that class was about was the spiritual, the overlap of ritual and game. Yeah. And if you look at what makes a game and what makes a religious ritual, and if you look back to our furthest back history, rituals and games were the same thing. The games that we played in the earliest times were the same thing as religious rituals. They were designed to create meaning. They were designed to manipulate the wider world by the pieces we were playing with.
So what would those early games look like? Like chess or backgammon?
They could be rolling dice. They could be playing at being hunters. They could be playing at being the animals. Those were rituals and games at the same time. And here's what sets apart a game. A game is set apart from reality. There's a clear boundary between the game and outside of the game. There are participants in the game, and there are people watching the game. There are a symbolism in the game. There's always some kind of symbolism in the game.
And there's an alternate rule structure, right?
Right.
So you've got a way that like with ritual.
Yes.
This is how we intend to.
And then there is a group purpose to the game. There may be, like for games that are competitive, there may be, I'm trying to win this game. But that's not the group purpose of the game. The group purpose of the game is to have fun or to demonstrate something or to socialize or something like that. All of these things match up with ritual. They also, that's the power of games, is I am now setting apart this time. I'm creating this space. We're agreeing to the rules ahead of time. We're agreeing to the setting ahead of time. We're agreeing to the goal ahead of time. If that sounds a little bit like covenant, it is. Yeah. It's a mini covenant. And so that's games in general. You get to know people through games. You get to see how they operate. What's their dominant style of assessing situations and cooperating and communicating. So all those are educational and spiritual. Then you go into role-playing games. Role-playing games take it a little bit further. In role-playing games, it's set apart, set rules, set location, but you are now going to play a different role than who you are. You get to be somebody else. And you're going to do your best to play that person and that part, just as I am going to play that person and my part. And in therapeutic terms, there's a word called, it's a very unfortunate word, but it's called bleed.
Okay, so bleed, B-L-E-E-D.
B-L-E-E-D. And what it means is what you experience in the role-playing game can bleed through to your experience outside of the game. If you grieve inside the game, you will still feel the grief outside the game, or you can. If you feel competence in the game, if you succeed at something, you will feel competent outside of the game. Same thing is also true. If you are having a really crappy day, and then you decide to play a board game or a role-playing game, you might be a jerk because your anger and is bleeding through to the character that you're playing in the board game.
Can that also be where, let's say, you bring something unfortunate into the game sphere, so grief or loss or sadness, and you somehow work it out in the game? You can leave it in the game. And resume in a
the way that because you have dealt with it in the game, your brain does not necessarily know the difference between dealing with it out here and dealing with it here.
Right.
Now, the problem with that is bad things that happen in the game could bleed through outside of the game. So you have to be aware of bleed and guard against it working in a bad way and use it in a positive way. And that is what therapeutic game mastering is all about.
And so you, as the game minister, your game minister, would help guide that in a positive way. So you're both a participant and, I don't want to say overlord, but
moderator.
Yeah.
A lot of games they call it the game master. I find master has a little bit of baggage to it, and every game calls it something slightly different. GM is the abbreviation that most people know, so I just changed it to game moderator.
Nice.
Or in my logo, game minister. So.
Is there a time when you've been working with one of your clients and have watched this happen? Like, tell me about a time when this shift happened.
in this particular case, they were playing in a fantasy setting, and it was staff members from a church, and it was the senior minister, and it was a new hired RE person, and they were playing in a fantasy setting. They had not talked about what they wanted to accomplish in this game. They were just trying it out to see what this was like. And then when something happened in the game, when the challenge was presented, the senior minister immediately took charge and set the plan, and the RE person dove in to accomplish the goal, and then the senior minister then went to protect them. And I noticed that, and I just kind of let that go for a little bit. And then when we were done and we pulled back out, I asked them about what were they feeling in the game and with their characters and when the challenges were occurred. And as they were teasing it out, they came to their own realization about this is kind of how they're planning to operate as staff people. And they had not intended that to be the case, but it was reassuring to them to see that that's how they would be with one another. And so they got to take out of that a sense of, oh, I trust this person.
This senior person is going to have my back. They're not going to.
This person's going to do what needs to be done and let me take the lead. This person's going to watch my back and take care of me. They did it in the game, and now I feel confident they're going to do it outside of the game. That's bleed. Things like that. It is good stuff. It's really fascinating to see that. And in my pastoral RPGs, we usually start with, what do you need from today's game?
So there's an intro
Yes.
to what we're doing and how it's maybe different than just hanging out and
Yes.
grabbing Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to kind of brief.
Yes. There's a check-in where we reaffirm our covenant. And then what does everybody need today? What's your one thing you need from today's game? And then we're going to review that. And then it's all of our responsibility to make sure each person gets what they need out of the game. So it's not just the cooperative game itself. The metagame part is also cooperative. And then, so for sometimes it might be, I am really dealing with grief this week. So it'd be really good if no one died in the game.
Oh, so you're all going to cooperate to try to keep...
No one's going to die in that game.
Okay.
I'm in charge of the game. If that person says it's really important that no one dies in the game, check. No one's going to die in the game. This person says, I've been having a really rough week, and I just need to feel like successful at something. Okay. We're going to make sure that that person succeeds at something. This person says, I really am pissed off and I just want to hit somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. We just make that, and that's every game session is like that for a pastoral RPG.
So they entrust you, the game moderator, with these hopes, with these needs, and they trust that you're going to somehow meet that.
We trust
in this
all of us are going to meet it, because I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So in another episode, I was talking to Marcia McFee about this ritual idea of and ritual doesn't just exist in a church or a synagogue or temples, all aspects of life. So and in the way she was describing ritual, you enter it with an invitation, with intention. Here's what I want to get out of it, even if it's just I need a journey, or I need to be held, or I need love, or whatever it is. And then we hold that space together. Yep. And then we, with ritual, open the door back out into the real world.
Really important with role-playing games. So at the end of the role-playing game, we start with questions about their character, questions about the game. And then we start asking questions about them as a person. And then we start asking questions about what's happening tomorrow or, outside of the game. So there's this transition of, we are transitioning out of the space, out of this time, out of this game and back into reality. But we're going to take some things with us when we go.
Sounds like you're having a lot of fun with this.
I am having a lot of fun with it. Doing a lot of improv storytelling and gaming. Um, the role playing games, I'm running 3 games a week for younglings and youth, and twice a month I run for Job Corps for at risk young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to see the effect this short game consistently in their lives has had on them. The increase in empathy, the ability to communicate, the creativity, the problem solving, especially those that, like, this kid's got dyslexia, this kid's got ADHD, this kid's on the autism spectrum, this kid can't read, this, they
So it's
all have,
awkward and doesn't know how to talk to people, and
right,
and the game again gives a
right.
container for
This person has trouble regulating. And watching the game and the group as a whole adapt and help people learn
Mhm.
and change is really powerful. And I've had much more ministry with kids in the last year than I did in all the years I was a congregational minister. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this new vocation, or not, this vocation, because it's been
It's
a
been
long time launching.
Yeah, it's been a part of my
Yeah,
life
yeah.
all this time. It's just that I'm finally calling it a ministry.
Yeah. Where what is the idea of vocation is where the world's great need intersects with your deepest
Joy and passion.
joy and passion.
Yeah.
So Howard Thurman, right?
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining Reverend Craig and me for this episode of Van Spirit. And maybe an assignment this week is to go play a game with some special people and think about the idea of intention and how that game might shape your experience, either with each other or with your own life.
There's that old phrase, and it's usually used in sports. It's not about whether or not we win or lose, it's how we play the game.
Yeah.
That's totally true in every game. It's really not about the winning or the losing. It's about playing the game together.
Yeah.
So.
You can use that for life.
Yes. There's a whole sermon about that.
Yeah. It's how we
That's right.
do our lives. So until next time, keep on moving and be well.
Be well.